Welcome, software engineers, to day 19 of CSC 222 Software Engineering. I'm glad you're here. It's good to be with you, at least virtually, if not physically. And I would rather that I was there, at least weather-wise. You are certainly warmer. I know I've shared with you that Catbert, the evil director of HR, is my favorite character in Dilbert, just because it is really what HR is like. According to the employee survey, you want fewer benefits. I don't remember doing a survey. We polled a random sample. That seems a bit suspicious. In other findings, you want more verbal abuse. Yeah, I know that's how you feel about us too. Today, CNCS 8 is due, dealing with the seventh commandment. Thank you for working through that, thinking about it, and submitting it. We're going to take a little break. I'm not going to give you the next CNCS assignment today because we're doing something different on Monday, but we'll get back in the groove of doing that. Sound fair? Good. Assignment 16.5. Yes, I don't know why I have those reversed there, which you have not seen yet. We'll talk about today. I'll show you in the middle. You should find online at Blackboard. Yeah, I'm sorry to put in these 0.5 things, but it's just easier for me to keep track of things in Blackboard to do that rather than reassign numbers and then Blackboard gets upset. Assignment 16 is a team project. Today is the last call. I thank the other teams. Many folks have actually done this. Only one member of your team needs to submit this. If more than one have, that's okay. But only one member of the team needs to submit assignment 16. So that's what we're doing. Two of those things are due today, just one new thing, and you wonder, why is that? It is because the next time we meet, Reformation Day, October 31st, the next day we meet is exam number 2. You'll find some tips online at Blackboard, and I will show you later also. But you'll find actually 2 different things. You'll find exam 2 preview with a bunch of questions. And then if you look for day 20 notes, what is there is basically an outline, all the Roman numeral major points and major subpoints that we've covered in this unit, just so you know what are the topics and what kinds of things to expect there. So a couple things online. We'll take a look at that. The exam will be online at Blackboard, just as last time. Same format as last time. True, false, multiple choice, and short answer. One of these days, I wonder if I should do the short answer or not. Well, we'll think about it. If they weren't there, you wouldn't feel badly at all, but plan on it. So true, false, multiple choice, short answer. Next Monday, we will meet. I want to talk with you about a couple of things, mainly where we're going in this last third of the class. Big focus on a team development assignment. And you are going to go back and do another sprint, another iteration of that ad nums individual project also. Yeah. All right, so connect. I'll chat for just a little bit. And then do the exam. I want you to do the exam during class period. You don't have to stay connected to Zoom after we're done. I will just keep a Zoom window open on the side here while I'm doing other things. If you have questions, you can chat with me or ask. Sound fair? Good. I had a question, good question, and I apologize for always using this statement and never explaining it fully. So I say this a lot, and somebody asked me, how are the commandments a framework? Let me give you some quotes. I want to do another little poll about the commandments, and then I want to relate to what Martin Luther had to say about the commandments as a framework. Another word for a framework is a guide, and I guess you can see it as a guide, but here's some other quotes. I agree with these. They're not for me. Like our Constitution, the 10 Commandments form a framework for living. The United States is a constitutional republic. All those involved in poli-sci and civics, you know that. If you ask the person on the street, they'd say it's a democracy, which it is not. It is a constitutional or perhaps representative republic. What's the difference? In a democracy, 51% of the people determine the rules. If 51% of the people say, we don't want college professors, then I'm out of a job. In a republic, the idea of a republic is there is a fundamental framework that other laws are built upon. And that in the United States is the Constitution. The Constitution is the framework that all other laws flow from. Another quote: in a world of endless competing choices, in a very pluralistic society, a framework of commandments identifies key values and provides direction for decision making. So this framework helps us determine what we do really value, using that term in an ethic and moral sense, and direction for good decision making. The Ten Commandments are the framework for Christian ethics. They need to be filled by love, by the guidance of God's Spirit. So a framework is a structure that not only builds, but you build and add to it also. So guiding, and I appreciate the one student asked that question. I think we hashed that out, but I wanted to share it with all the rest of you. All right, are you ready? Let's do another poll. How many of the 10 commandments could you name? Remember, this is anonymous. I have no idea who's saying what, but how many of the 10 commandments could you recite? And I'm not saying that you know what the 10 commandments are, just, this commandment 1 is this. So none of them, 1 or 2, I could do 1 or 2. And that doesn't mean the first or second, just means, yeah, I remember this was a commandment and this was a commandment. 3 or 4, 5 or 6, 7 or 8, finally 9, or all 10. I'll show you what the classic survey says. I looked up 2 popular ones. I should have gone to Pew Research. They've probably done this, and they are very good at doing this too. I took a look at a Newsweek, and I think that some other popular poll here where they were asking people self-identified, are you Christian or not? And then among Christians who self-identified as either Protestant or Catholic. And if you do know 9 or 10, congratulations. I mean, good for you. If you only know 1 or 2, it's not a problem. Can you identify them? If you haven't done my little poll yet, do my little poll. Getting close to everybody doing it. Getting closer. All right, time's up. So here's what everybody else said. How's them? Okay. That's actually not bad at all. By the way, this is what the one poll, I'm trying to remember who, I said Newsweek. Now I'm trying to remember where I grabbed this one from. 49% of those folks who identified themselves as Protestant could name 4 or less. So half of the people couldn't name half of the commandments. Those who self-identified as Catholic, it was a little lower, it was 44%. So yeah. If you could name them, good for you. Maybe I can help. This is what Martin Luther had to say about the commandments. And I'm sure that in one of the required theology classes, you've heard about the 3 uses of the law. And in this context, Luther means not only the 10 commandments, but God's law in toto. Luther says, therefore, God uses his law in three ways. First, like a curb by which outbursts of sins are controlled. Right. So it's a curb is a guide, stay on the road, don't go up on the sidewalk kind of thing. It's a guide for where you're supposed to be going. And that's the do not aspect. The second, and yes, the most important aspect, is as a mirror to show every human being, myself especially, where we have fallen short and therefore we need a savior. The third one, though, as a guide. And this is really the closest thing to the framework idea. As a guide to teach us what is pleasing to him, living in the forgiveness won by Christ throughout our lives, we pray, have mercy, Lord. So this guide idea is what we mean by the framework. And that is not just the do not kill, but help and defend our neighbor in every bodily need. Thanks for allowing me to share that. Last major topic in Unit 2 of CSC 370. This unit has its grand title, Implementation. We talked about the idea in Unit 1, which was requirements and specifications. And now in this unit, implementation, we talked about design and instantiation. Last major topic, Roman numeral 17. Sometimes I make changes. I make changes to my stuff all the time. And sometimes the Roman numerals get off a little bit. So if this isn't really 17 or I've done 17 already, don't let that bother you. It doesn't bother me, obviously. Just realize it is a new topic, the final major topic, quality assurance, that I will always abbreviate as QA. What's the job? What's the goal of QA? To ensure acceptable products. That's a loaded sentence fragment. Ensure acceptable products. Early on in this class, we asked the question, who decides if it's acceptable or not? And the answer is the user. The client and the user will determine whether this product, this app, is acceptable or not. Historically and traditionally in software development companies, QA was an organization. It was a department within a company. And you'll still find that, but there's a better way. This caused some problems, which we'll mention. And most organizations do it slightly different today. But I know you'll run across companies that have a QA, and in the software world, oftentimes called SQA for software quality assurance, but we'll just say QA. Radbert, my company is hiring for our quality assurance group. You'd be perfect. What would I have to do? You would find flaws in our new product, thus making yourself an object of intense hatred and ridicule. Let's pause the comic right there. You remember last time when we talked about verification testing, a completely different mindset. If you are the developer, if you created this, now you're going to have to flip your mind 180 degrees from nurturing it to trying to break it. That's the goal of testing, find errors. And you know what? There oftentimes is animosity between a development group and a verification or QA group. Ratbert goes on. But then you'd fix those flaws and your respect for me would grow into a special bond of friendship, right? Nope. Then we ship. And that's also something we talked about last time. This pressure at the end. If you wait until the very end of the entire development cycle to test, you're likely behind schedule. And then there's then there's pressure put on you by management to get that product out the door. And that oftentimes means, well, I'm not going to test it. I'm not going to test it well. Oops. Let's talk about organizational structure. This is just some background to understand QA. In the vast majority of companies, most companies have individual departments. Think about Concordia University, Irvine. You have individual schools, like the School of Arts and Sciences. I think you do, right? Well, you certainly have departments like the Department of Math and Computer Science. And there are other departments. You have a chemistry department. You have a theology department. You have a communication department. And so it goes. Lots of departments. In addition to that, there are some other ones that, you as a student don't interact with all the time because they're not academic, but they are support. There'd be the registrar to help you get signed up for classes. There'd be whatever you call your financial aid group. You need to get, financial aid, like a scholarship. There would be other things like student services, etc. In a company, most companies divide up their departments into two, a number of line departments. Line means these are directly in line with the mission of the organization. Now, for most companies, that means these departments generate revenue. They make money. Yeah. So in a classical computer software company, you would have departments like R&D. Those letters stand for research and development. You'll find the vast majority of your software engineers in R&D. Sometimes the company won't call it that. Sometimes I've heard other terms like lab or, software engineering too. But R&D is kind of a classic name, research and development. If we were a hardware group, if we were Dell Computers, we'd have a large manufacturing facility too to put all those products together. You still need manufacturing in a software-only company because somehow, and we haven't talked about this, but that's phase 5, somehow you have to deploy this. Maybe you're not making physical CDs. CD, anybody use a CD? Maybe you're not making physical Blu-rays that you hand out to people, but somehow you got to get that out. That's the manufacturing process. And then marketing to help ensure people know about your product. These are 3 classical line departments that almost every company has, including software companies. When I worked for Hewlett-Packard Company, I worked in R&D. I actually had a title, R&D engineer. Now, in addition to the line departments, there are also support departments. They're not in line. They don't do directly the mission of the company. They don't make money directly for the company, but they support those who do. Examples, what we're going to talk about now, QA. If there's a separate organization, a QA is a support department. And then your personnel or human resources, HR, their support. IT, Concordia Irvine, like Concordia Mequon, we have an IT support department. They don't make money directly because they don't look outside of the university, but they support those of us inside of the university. So for our discussion, QA, if it's a separate department, is different than the R&D, the folks making the software. Good. Now, traditionally, as I said 2 slides ago, this is an organization. It's better and more modern approaches to software engineering like Scrum and DevOps and Kanban and all these other kinds of things. Quality assurance is not a separate department. It's all wrapped up into software engineering, and it's designed that everybody has a QA attitude or a QA mindset. So let me just overview these things quickly, then we'll come back and fill in some details. QA, regardless of if it's a separate department or it's something that is part and parcel of our software engineering group, QA must ensure the quality of two things: the product that we're building, the app, and the process that we're following to do so, the software development lifecycle. QA must ensure the quality of two things: the product, the app, and the process, the software development lifecycle. Okay, we're not looking at these. They're just there. So we've seen some things already. We already know from last time some ways that we can test, or if you will, verify the product. We've discussed alpha testing. We've discussed beta testing. The difference again? Alpha testing are testers inside my company. Beta testers are outside groups contracted to test for me. I did mention briefly last time that some of you may be familiar with the fact that large companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, etc., have beta tests of their product. You could be invited to be a beta tester for Windows 11 point whatever, or Mac OS, whatever is next type of thing. That really isn't beta testing, not at all, because that's just folks using the product. Testing is a demanding, planned, and managed activity. You've got to have a test plan. Product verification. Just for completeness sake, so you can hear it again, it must be important. Historically, product verification, in other words, code testing, only happened at the very end of the life cycle. If you wait until the end, things are not going to work out well. Why? Because verification or testing cannot improve the quality of a product. I said I would give you an example. I'm trying to remember, do I do that now or do I do that in a little bit? Can I peek ahead? Nah. Let me talk about it now. If it comes up again later, that's okay too. Excuse me. I'm sorry that all my analogies deal with automobiles, but that's kind of the way it is. At the end of the 20th century, Ford Motor Company, in an effort to save money, makes perfect sense, save weight on automobiles, and therefore increase gas mileage, experimented with composite wheels. The wheel is the hard part that your tire wraps around, and that's what your car rolls on. Okay. Historically, wheels were made out of steel, kind of heavy. Some cars have alloy wheels, aluminum or magnesium, etc., a little bit lighter. Ford was experimenting with composite. That's a plastic. And not a plastic like you wrap a product in, but a hard composite material. Well, they went through the rigorous development cycle and they built 50,000 of these, and they put them on a specific automobile. Actually, two specific ones, a Ford and a Mercury. And then at the same time, they said, why don't we test these things out? If you don't know, most automobile manufacturers, when they have a new car, they'll drive it. They'll drive it continuously for 50,000 miles. They'll put 50,000 miles on it by having a team of drivers drive that car 24 hours a day. Just drive. And over a month or so, you get 50,000 miles on it. Well, at the end of that 50,000 miles, they discovered something horrible. Because of the heat of braking and thermal expansion, the wheels were warping. And that, of course, caused tire problems and all other kinds of bad things, braking problems, etc. Oh no. So Ford now had a warehouse full of 50,000 wheels, many on automobiles that were already in the dealer's showroom, some that even being sold. Did testing improve those wheels? You say, no, it did not. Testing did not improve those wheels. In a similar fashion, testing cannot improve. So you say, well, I'll change it. Well, yeah, Ford changed the wheels too. But that doesn't, it's a problem. Debugging, changing is not a simple process. And we're going to cover debugging in phase 6 on maintenance. Debugging is a difficult process. Regardless, testing doesn't improve the quality of a product. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Oh, it's not called day 19 app test. It's called assignment 16.5. Ignore that. Change my mind. When you look online at Blackboard, you're going to find this. And I'm going to ask you to create a test plan, test it, and find errors. Remember, good tests find errors. Review what we talked about last time. It will help you for this assignment. It will also help you for the exam. We'll come back to this. Let me switch to Blackboard just so we all know what I'm talking about here. Oh, there's me setting up my poll. Hang on. Where are you, Blackboard? Here you are. Under Unit 2, we're still under Unit 2. Okay. Here we are at day 19. Here's assignment 16.5. See this file here? I want you to download it. I'm going to have you do what I've done a lot. You download this. Notice it's a .pgm. That's so Blackboard doesn't balk. You download this. You have to do this on Windows. So either on a Windows machine or on the Windows partition on your Mac. Change it to a .exe and then run it. Develop and carry out a test plan for this application. Recall from our previous discussion that a test plan lists not only what inputs I'm going to give to it, but also the expected outputs. And then if there's any discrepancy, any variance from the expected outputs and the actual output, that would be an error, and you'll note that. Explicitly list any errors found during testing and classify. You could make up your own. Remember, we had critical, serious, trivial, whatever you think. That's okay. Download that, blah, blah, blah. Now, how are you going to test? Last time I said you cannot possibly test every input. So make equivalence classes. At the very least, think about it. What would make sense? How many values should I input? Just 2? That makes no sense to me at all. All right, here it is. Oh, by the way, day 20, this shows you the entire outline of the unit to help you study. And here are the preview questions here for the exam next time. Got it? Good. Let's switch back and look at this app. At least let's look at the user interface. Oh man, this is an add numbers app. Okay, so type in a value. Or is it an add numbers app? Oh, what says, oops, sorry. It says up here, test adding numbers. Why does that say function? Now, you're going to be tempted to say, oh, this is an error. It should say add. And I agree with you from a user experience sense. For this, and that's fine to say, but for this, be sure you focus on accuracy, the truthfulness, the functionality. If you just add 2 values and move on, that's not a good test case. What if you add 10 numbers? What if you add 5 numbers? What if you add no? Okay, that's not going to work. And what if you don't even enter a number? There are several errors in this app. And remember, a good test finds errors. So have at it. This is actually not called Day 19 app test. It's called assignment 16.5. Find it on Blackboard. It is due Monday. You're going to want to review this stuff on testing that will help you with the exam regardless. And this is the only thing to do besides study for the exam. QA has to ensure the quality of two things. Number one, the product. Number two, the process. The process, of course, we've called the software development lifecycle. There are lots of variations from. We've already seen Scrum as a way to think about doing requirements, specifications, design, instantiation. So there are lots of different ways of putting this all together. QA would investigate the process my company is using and then determine, is it good or does it need improvement? The major reason the QA does this is because you can't test in quality. Quality has to be designed in. You have to think about quality during requirements and specifications and design and instantiation. If you're not thinking about high quality product throughout the process, there may be issues, and QA would say, you need to be thinking about it. What that means is this: QA should be involved throughout the software development lifecycle process. If QA is a separate department, then that department would work with your development department. In many modern environments like Scrum and DevOps, a member of the development team is the QA person. Regardless, they need to be involved throughout the process. Why? To ensure that the process itself is of high quality. In Unit 1 of CSC 222, I shared with you this concept of CMM, Capability Maturity Model. This was something developed by the Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon University. No, I'm not going to go into those links. CMM is a way to grade or evaluate a process. And they have guidelines and they have 5 levels. Level 1 is not very good at all. Level 2 is better, but not. And then level 5 is the best. Your QA department would set standards for the process, whether that's using something already built like CMM or coming up with their own criteria. And many companies do. So QA is not just the testers. They are the assistant that helps us developers do a better job. QA would set some standards for quality. What is a quality process? So, I mean, if you don't, we said this before with milestones. If my milestone is not measurable, it's not a real milestone. If it doesn't have a date and a deliverable, design document due October 31st. That's measurable. Same here. QA has to have some measurable standards set up. Then QA won't just sit around and say, okay, you figure out, here's my standard, 2 bugs per 100 lines of code. How do I get a product that good? QA would be those folks with both the expertise, knowledge, and time to investigate how to do that. Here's a guideline. Oh, here's a framework to develop good software. Then QA will collect data. As you're going through a project, and especially at the end of the project, QA will collect all this data. Here were the milestones. How many did we meet? How many did we miss? Here's the results of my verification testing. How good was the product? Was my project on time? Was my project within budget? And so it goes. They'll collect all this historic data. Why? So they can feed it back in and now maybe improve the standards, but certainly provide better guidelines. Okay, that project didn't work out well. Why not? We need to do this. We forgot to do that. Let's be sure we emphasize that in the next project. Wow, what timing. How did he do that? Zeb to Zeke. Zeke, want to hear a construction joke? Yeah, okay. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. No A students today. Darn. Okay, let's try another one. Oh, wait, where's the other thing? All right, I guess we got to stand up. It's time. We've come to that time in our course. Do you do that in other 75-minute courses? Anybody allow you to stand up in the middle? You should share with them that the weird person from Wisconsin has you do that. All right. Take a break. How long do we usually take? A minute? Synchronize your watches. Ready? Stand up. Watch me disappear. Stand up, walk around, get a drink of water. Drop and give me 20, and then come back. Did you know it's dark in Mequon, Wisconsin? It's really dark outside right now. I know it's been a minute, but I was gonna say my watch usually tells me. Okay, my watch says, you stood up for a minute. Okay. All right. So if you're in earshot of me, it's time to come back. Quality assurance is something that happens throughout the software development lifecycle. Oh, what? Oh, okay. Gotcha. I was going to give you a little more depth here, but I already did that. So here it's just written down. The goals and milestones must be measurable. A standard, you can't just say, well, you got to do it quick and it's got to be good. That doesn't mean anything. Must be measurable. Yeah, that's funny. Secondly, QA provides guidelines. QA isn't just the bad guy sitting in the corner waiting to get your product with a hatchet so they can destroy it. QA should be giving developers assistance, training, and help when asked. It's actually a fairly difficult job to do QA and do it well. Assistance, training, help. Yeah. This is supposed to be before. Now, this one's funny. You should laugh. Not yet, because you don't know the punchline. Chuck Norris can tie his shoes with his feet. Oh, and then somebody's going to say, but he's got boots on. Yeah, I know. That leads to this one then. If Chuck Norris had flip-flops. Okay. Maybe you're not even paying attention. Don't forget about Scrum. I've talked about it at various points along the way. We did spend a day investigating a little bit, and there's some links. If you kind of missed that, be sure to go back and take a look earlier on in this unit. I got some links here. I don't know if I'm going to jump into those or not. Let's see. Oh, right. Do I do this? Hang on, I gotta see if I want to do this or not.
Introduction.
No, not going to do it. Don't forget to look up what Scrum is. Scrum is an agile way of doing the software development lifecycle. It combines those concepts of iteration with those phases of the software development lifecycle. In Scrum, your goal is not in one setting to produce the final product. You produce iterations of the product. Now, those iterations should be workable. They should actually do something. They should meet a subset of the requirements, but it is not necessarily the finished project. As a designated agile Scrum, that's just made up words. It is my job to remove any distractions so you can work. Great, remove yourself from my cubicle and you've done your job. That seems too easy, and yet you can't do it. There is a person on the Scrum team called the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is a person who says, this is how we do Scrum. Not everybody on the team needs to be an expert in the ins and outs of Scrum. The Scrum Master will help us understand, you do this, you do that, you do this. Thirdly, QA has to collect data. Why? Oh, I got to tell you. So you can improve both future products and the process you use to create software. You can't create an improvement plan without basing it on some data. You can't tell if you did improve unless you have some historic data. Did you know that every department, every academic department at Concordia University, Irvine does this kind of thing? Your academic departments collect data, all kinds of data, like, well, grades, sure, that seems really easy, but lots of other things too. And then members of the department will meet and say, all right, how'd we do this last year or these last 3 years, whatever your cycle is, and then make a plan to do better. How can we, teach better? How can we get the point across better? Do we need a different learning management system? Is Blackboard too antiquated? Do we have to move to, I forget what system, you're moving to a new system. I don't know if that's next year or next academic year, but anyway. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, that's funny. Now, we're talking about quality assurance. Very important question. What is quality? What is quality? Well, First of all, don't confuse quality with, many people think of quality as being higher grade or more luxury, etc. For example, is a Chevy Spark of lower quality than an 8th generation Corvette? The answer is not necessarily. Both of these could be quality products, or heaven forbid, it might be the Spark is of higher quality than the Chevrolet Corvette. Really? Yeah. The answer, of course, depends upon what's our definition of quality. Here is, here's the essence of my definition of quality. A quality product meets specifications, both written and assumed. A quality product meets specifications, both written and assumed. We'll say more about this, just not in this unit. Another software engineer, Robert Glass, says quality is a combination of attributes. What do I mean by written and assumed? Written means those specifications. They say, hey, this product's going to add multiple values and produce a running total. Does it do it? Well, if it does, it's quality. But. The assumed part for me are those transcendentals. Not only truth, but goodness. Does it do it well? Is it robust? Beauty. Not only is the code beautiful, like a work of literature, but the user experience is also one of, yeah, this is nice. In a previous life, when I was much younger, I worked for Hewlett-Packard Corporation. I had, oh my goodness, a number of different jobs. I worked for 5 different divisions across 3 states in the span of 10 years. Now, you can take that to mean I was a bad person. I got moved around a lot. Or you can take it to mean that, oh man, he was really good and he moved up the ladder a lot. I think it was actually both of those things. Hewlett-Packard, though, had an unwritten mantra. And it was really internalized by many of the employees there. At least that was my experience. The HP way. Hewlett-Packard were the 2 founders. Bill Hewlett, Dave Packard. You know why it was called Hewlett-Packard rather than Packard-Hewlett? Because I can't say that one. Because PH means something different. No, it's because, they literally tossed a coin. HP was the classic 2 guys in a garage in Silicon Valley. They were the first. 2 guys in the parents' garage in Palo Alto, California, creating this massive company that you haven't heard of. But the HP way was give the customer more than what was expected. They never used the term truth, beauty, goodness, community like I do, but you can see that idea there. All right. Hey, if this were what the customer said, the specifications, you do something more. Give them something more than what they asked for. Hewlett-Packard technically was an outstanding company. They lacked one thing, marketing. They didn't know how to promote their products. I still don't think they do. There's likely only one product you've ever heard of from Hewlett-Packard. I was the program manager for LaserJet printers. And it wasn't because of me. It's just because they were just such a runaway success in spite of all the things that Hewlett-Packard bungled trying to get that product to market. Let's review a fundamental tenet of software engineering. Why are we doing this? What's the goal of software engineering? 3 parts. Produce an acceptable product. The app is the product. Oh, wait a minute. Acceptable? Who determines if it's acceptable or not? The user. The client and the user will determine if this product is acceptable or not. Keep going. Produce an acceptable product following. I have a different word for good, but then it wouldn't fit on the line. Following a good process. When we looked at various software development life cycles in the first unit, you remember the waterfall? Most people would say waterfall is not a good process, not at all. Many people would say Scrum is a good process. Okay. Produce an acceptable product following a good process, software development life cycle, with professional project management. Software engineering is management. You got to manage the entire software development project. We do so in a professional way. Did you even notice I didn't begin today like I've begun every other day with what is software engineering and what's its description? Ha! I got it in there anyway. As I mentioned earlier, you'll find two things on Blackboard. You have two goals for Monday. One of those goals is to prepare yourself for exam number 2. Exam 2 is a unit exam. It only covers material from unit 2. So only those things we've discussed and reviewed throughout these last 9 days will be covered in the exam. So look at day 20 outline. What day 20 outline on Blackboard is a major listing of all the topics that we have gone through in this unit. And if you read something and say, I don't know what that is, I'd look it up. Go to the notes, go to the text, look it up. And then also online at Blackboard, you see that exam 2 preview, bunch of questions. I don't want to call it a study guide, but there's a lot of topics there. There's a lot of questions there. These two things will get you zoned in, zeroed in for the exam. I thought that was funny. Maybe you do too, because it's not mine. It's obviously a meme I stole from somewhere. What I'd hoped to do, and the only way I can test this is live. 2 times ago, I set up a breakout room and you were able to self-assemble. You're able to get in there. Last time I did the same thing and you weren't. And I asked Zoom support, what am I doing wrong? Oh, don't worry, they said. I can help you with that problem. Do you ever chat with technical support or even call technical support? You know, this script that they follow, that just kind of burns me. Oh, don't worry, Gary. We can help you solve this problem. Don't say that because you can't. Well, they said do this. I did that. As soon as, I don't know. Okay. Well, I axed it out. I started again. Let's see if it works now. And maybe it doesn't. The one thing I didn't think of is at Mequon, we have a different version of the Zoom server than you do there at Irvine. But I mean, truly, there can't be a big difference, right? Right. We're going to give it a shot. The only thing you would have to do if you can actually get into the Zoom room is decide on a team name if you haven't done so already. And then secondly, it's okay. You can ask each other. You got a question about something or the other, you know, studying for the exam or something like that. Go ahead and do that. But what I really want to do is I want to see if you can add yourself to the breakout rooms. All right. I can manually assign people, but the problem is that's going to take forever. Okay, hang on one second. The rooms are supposed to be open. The problem is you just don't know what room you're supposed to go into. So would somebody try to go to the breakout room and add yourself to the appropriate one? And if that doesn't work, would you please let me know?
It might be because I'm zooming on my phone, but I don't see any option.
To add yourself?
Yeah, I don't see an option to add myself.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody else? I don't think it, well, you know what? I guess I didn't double check that. I didn't see if either the web only, the non-client one, or phone gives you that option. I don't see.
Other people in the chat are saying they can't
They can't.
access it.
Okay, thank you.
They cannot.
Oh, now look, my my speech rec was working while we were sleeping there. Wait for the host to assign you. There's no option for going to the breakout room. Okay, thank you. Now hang on, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to once again I don't think that did anything. All right. Gosh. Unbelievably, the user interface forces me to delete each room one at a time. I can't, I just wanted to delete it all and start again. Man, if there were 100 rooms, oh man. And now how do you delete the last one? Oh, life is not good, folks. Nope. Nope, that's not doing it. Aha. Here's a problem. Now they are numbered. I'd have to go in manually again and change everything. Team Z, you're 1. Team T, you're 7. Is anybody able to now assign themselves to get into a breakout room? Yeah. Okay. Worked now. Now, can I remember the 29 steps I had to do to tell Zoom to get rid of that and then start again? Maybe I can. All right. Would you do me a favor then? Would, if you are here, and I'm sorry, they're not X, Y, etc. Okay, I think you can figure it out. Would you assign yourself to the appropriate breakout room? Once you're in that room, I know you can't hear me. I'm going to broadcast something here in a second.
Thank you.
Thank you.